What happens when a soldier has no orders? It's Sunday, which means Doctor Who, and it's Big Finish, which means that my Patreon supporters got to select this one. So this time I'm taking a listen at Jubilee. This is a Sixth Doctor adventure written by Robert Shearman, and that already had me pretty excited because he wrote The Holy Terror, which was another Sixth Doctor audio adventure and has so far been my favorite of the Big Finish audio dramas that I've listened to. Yes, even more than Spare Parts, although Spare Parts is probably a better jumping on point. In any case, this had pretty high expectations for me, doubly so because I knew that this was an influence on one of the best episodes of the show, which is the Series 1 episode, Dalek. Robert Shearman wrote that as well, and it was in many ways an adaptation of this story, of this audio. So I'll avoid spoiler. I'll talk about general premise, but I'll avoid spoilers for a while because I know not nearly as many people watch the or listen to the Big Finish as watch the show, so I can't count on people having heard this. So this is the Sixth Doctor, and he is traveling with a companion named Evylyn Smythe, who is a character I knew about, I was aware of. I hadn't encountered her yet, and had heard good things about her. So she's a bit older than companions tend to be. She is she's a historian, history buff person. That's kind of her whole thing. And what happens is that she and the Doctor, basically through a little bit of accidental time, little messing up, there ends up being an alternate history to the history we know. So that what happens is in 1903, the Daleks invaded Earth and the Doctor helped stop them. But what happened after that was that Britain, the British Empire, kept expanding. They actually reclaimed America. They are an empire. And so when we pick up on the story, we've got the Doctor, we've got Evylyn, but then we've got the character of the President of England, or Britain, possibly, he says. I can't remember now. His wife, who is a almost parody level sort of, oh, silly old me, sort of thing. We've got, there's a guard named Lamb, who we deal with. There's a guy who seems to be kind of a high-ranking official, whose name is suddenly escaping me. And the Doctor and Evylyn just sort of come in and try and figure out what's going on, how did it get this way, can we fix it? And it just goes from there. And it's interesting coming into this because in some ways it deals in a lot of similar themes to what went on in Holy Terror. Not in the core of the story. The overall core and central premise is very different, but a lot of the accoutrement, a lot of the extra stuff going on as well is very similar. There's a lot going on with characters who appear to be one way and kind of have another thing going on, but not like in a secret agenda way. Just, you have characters who seem very outwardly to be easy to peg, and then you get revealed of, oh no, that's not what's going on with you. So that sort of thing's at play again. There's a lot of very cutting satire in regards to government and just how people come to be in positions of power, and how, especially I think most pointedly, how we as a society treat the worst parts of our own history and how we frame them when revisiting and looking back on that history. And I do think I can mention this without getting into spoilers, because it's introduced basically immediately. And actually in a sequence that I thought was like a trailer for another another Big Finish audio. It actually starts with a trailer for a movie like The Doctor, The Ultimate Adventure, which is a trailer for the movies that are shown in the Society about the Doctor defeating the Daleks. And it very deliberately parallels the way that Nazis have been treated in entertainment and how they've kind of become marketed to a certain degree. I think thankfully we're hitting a point where that's easing back, and because this was predictive in a lot of ways. This audio is over 15 years old, I think. So, but it pulls very specifically. They give the Doctor in this trailer thing, an Indiana Jones line, from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. He has the line, "Nazis, I hate these guys." They gave him that line, but he just says, "Daleks, I hate these guys." And it makes it very clear how the sort of turning the worst monsters of history into a kind of commodity has impacted our society in the way we view evil. And it's dealing with a lot of big ideas and dealing with them quite well, much in the same way Holy Terror was dealing with a lot of big ideas and dealt with them really well. Robert Sherman, I'm continuing to be really, really impressed. Now, next thing I'm going to say, I'm going to call this mildly spoilery. Because depending on how well you know the episode Dalek, I'm going to refer to some of the similarities and differences, and that will kind of indicate for you some of the stuff going on in Jubilee. But again, if you know one is adapted from the other, you probably already know all this. So to say that the episode Dalek, the Ninth Doctor episode called Dalek, is an adaptation of Jubilee is true, but kind of doing it a disservice, because this audio is over 2 hours. Jubilee's about 44. Dalek's about 44 minutes. Jubilee's over 2 hours. So there's a lot more going on here than in Dalek, and that's not a knock on Dalek. Dalek is a terrific episode, but really Dalek is a single subplot of Jubilee getting the focus for 45 minutes, because there is a captured Dalek, and it is being tortured by its human captors. They really want it to speak. It has some of the similar interactions with the Doctor. It has a similar sort of bond that it forms with the Doctor's companion. In this case, it's Evylyn, and in the show it was Rose. But most of that is pretty similar. Like, not exact. It's not beat for beat. But that thing that was the entirety of Dalek is just one of maybe 3 of the main story threads going on in Jubilee. So even if you thought, I don't think I'll get that one because I already know it because I know the episode Dalek, you don't. There's a lot more going on, and I didn't like it more than Holy Terror. Holy Terror is still my favorite, but this was really good, and I like that I am enjoying the 6th Doctor in audio as much as I am, because boy, him and the show just, oh boy. Don't know if you saw my review for the 2 Doctors, but ouch. Anyway, getting more into sort of proper spoilers. There's a lot of really good small touches throughout this. I like that they very much hint at, spoilers coming, serious. That's your last warning. I like that they hint at an appearance of Davros, and it turns out just to be an older, alternate version of the Doctor. Because, there's all this talk about a wheelchair, and there's a mention of, you could say he created the Daleks. And it turns out it's just an older version of the Doctor who's been captured for 100 years, and they cut his legs off because he kept trying to escape. And that's why he's in a wheelchair. In terms of similar things to what I said was going on in Holy Terror, they kind of do a similar thing with somebody who isn't evil enough by another person's measure. Because you have the president, who's kind of a fascinating character, who on the surface is a tyrant, ordering people to death. He strikes his wife, but then his wife is upset that he didn't hit her hard enough to break the skin. So you have this very twisted relationship going on between the two of them, which is, it's sick, if we're being honest, but it's interesting and it works, for the purposes of drama. And I found the president himself to be a really interesting character, and I think, again, a really good sort of pointed satirization, sort of just really singling something out, because he is someone who does awful things all the time, but is very obsessed with the idea that deep down he's a good man, that people can't know he's a good man because they'll then they won't be afraid of him, and he won't hold power, or they'll kill him or what have you. So he keeps rationalizing, I don't want to do these things, as he sentences a family to death. I don't want to do these things, as he authorizes the torturing of the Dalek. But I have to, don't you see? I'm a good man, but I have to do these awful things. The rationalizations he's gone through are impressive and do a lot to deepen what otherwise could have been a fairly generic, slightly buffoonish political character. And I've really enjoyed his wife for similar reasons, in terms of the Miriam is her name, in terms of the levels going on with her, because you have your surface level, which, like I said, is this sort of bubbly, giggly, I'm just a silly old woman, I don't know anything about that sort of thing. And that's the surface level. And it's not hard to guess that there's going to be more going on with her than that. And so we find out she's planning to overthrow her husband, and she's planning to stage a coup and take over the government, and she wants them to stop torturing the Dalek. And you think, she's the good revolutionary character. And you find out even more about her. She wants to be even bloodier than her husband is, and she wants them to stop torturing the Dalek because she wants the Dalek on her side, killing people that she thinks should die. So the whole story does, with a couple of characters, does this whole sort of they're this and now they're this, and you think, okay, well, that was your reveal. And then there's another layer underneath that, which doesn't feel like a cheat. It feels consistent, which is actually really tricky, because when you do those sort of multiple levels of reveal on the nature of a character, it can feel like you cheated. It can feel like you were just lying up to a point, whereas these feel like genuinely peeling back layers. And it's really well done. Like, if I'm being honest, I think my only complaint, and this is probably just me, I don't like the bit in the first episode where they're talking to the Prime Minister of America, because I kind of hate British people mocking American accents. And I'm not saying that because I'm offended. I'm not offended. I just hate the way it sounds. It hurts me to listen to. So I don't like that. But like I said, I might be the only, because I have a suspicion that probably a fair amount of British people, or even Anglophiles in the U.S., find that very funny, because they didn't go so far as to give him a Texan accent, but it's a very strong, very potently American accent, but by someone who very obviously doesn't naturally have that. And it's, oh boy, yeah, the standard British person doing a mock American accent just hurts my ears, man. But that's super nitpicky, and it hardly ruined anything because he only appears briefly in the first episode, but that's kind of it. This is really good, and there's the timey-wimey, the time-bending nature to it that's going on. I think the one thing that I think, for instance, that Dalek did better was that at the end of Jubilee, Evylyn destroys the Dalek using his own gun and at his request. Whereas in Dalek, the Dalek self-destructs, but he can't do that without being ordered, which is actually way more consistent with a lot of the themes going on, because there's a lot of emphasis that this Dalek, he doesn't even want to exterminate. He doesn't want to destroy. He just wants orders, because that's what his position is. And you can see the influence on not only the episode Dalek, but things like the concept of Dalek Khan. Later on, the Dalek who has gone mad, who has looked sort of down the line of what the Daleks are and what they could ultimately be and what that would mean, and sort of turning against them a little bit. So it's more than just the template for the episode Dalek. You can see how it influenced other decisions and other things that happened later on. I also want to take a minute and talk about Evylyn. I liked her a lot. She reminds me of Donna a little bit. I think in terms of that completely non-flirtatious, completely asexual, slightly older woman. She's got a bit of lip on her. She feels like the book smart version of Donna, whereas Donna is the street smart version. That's kind of how it feels. And I like her. I like what I'm getting from her. So I look forward to running into her more in the future. And I think I will wrap it up on that note. I haven't taken the vote from my patrons yet to know what I'm doing next month, but that'll be happening soon. You want to get on that? Any level of Patreon support, you get to vote in the polls for which classic and Big Finish audios I will be tackling on, in future months. So that'll wrap it up. You know the stuff you can do. You don't need me to tell you about it. There's links for the Patreon and all the other stuff that I'm involved in. It's all down in the description. Take a look if you care. And just remember, folks, you are the council. I just run the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.